Wait, this is absolutely insane. The bride, in a $1 million wedding gown, knelt before her lover and eloped, but then the groom turned her art into a nightmare. Spoiler alert, they ended up leaving no identifiable remains. You absolutely can't miss this. On the wedding day, my fiancée eloped with her first love, Julian. On our wedding day, my fiancée, the bride, never showed up, and neither did her bridal party. I waited alone in the ballroom all day, enduring the sympathetic yet scornful glances of the assembled guests. After calling her 999 times, only to be rejected, I finally accepted the fact that she had eloped. Returning to our empty place, I saw a post from my fiancée's first love, Julian. The art I want to explore with you encompasses not only the soul, but also the body. In the photo, my fiancée, wearing the $1 million wedding gown I had custom made for her, was kneeling naked with 6 bridesmaids at the man's feet. Their eyes were glazed over, burning with an intense, lustful desire. It was as if the man before them was their deity, and they were willing to be his most devout followers. I stared at the photo, silent for a long time, then liked and commented, "May your noble art rot in hell forever." Then I took a screenshot and sent it to each of the 6 bridesmaids' boyfriends. Such an artistic spectacle deserved to be appreciated by their partners as well. No sooner had I sent the screenshots to the 6 bridesmaids' boyfriends than my phone rang. The caller ID showed Isabel Bella Sterling, the bride, who had been missing all day and rejected my 999 calls, finally decided to show herself. Marcus Hayes, are you sick in the head? What the hell? Are you out of your mind? You actually took screenshots? And you sent them to other people? You despicable sneak! Snitching behind my back! Her voice was distorted with rage, thick with tears, yet completely devoid of any apology. Do you know what? Because of what you posted, Lily Davies and the others' boyfriends are all questioning them. They're going absolutely crazy. And Julian Vance, his meticulously prepared work might be ruined because of you now. He feels so incredibly guilty about this. It's all your fault. Guilty? I almost laughed out loud from anger. You, wearing the bride's gown, with your bridal party, kneeling naked at a man's feet taking those kinds of photos, what does he have to feel guilty about? Is he guilty he didn't invite me, your legitimate fiancé, to observe his artistic creation? Or is he guilty he couldn't handle all 7 of you on our wedding day? There was a second of silence on the other end, followed by an even sharper roar. Marcus Hayes, you will now immediately go apologize to Julian Vance. I've been too lenient with you. Do you hear me? Go apologize, or we're done. Isabel Bella Sterling commanded with self-righteous indignation, as if I were the one who had done something wrong. The sheer absurdity instantly crushed the last shred of my remaining hope. Apologize? Why should I apologize? Instead, I'd like to ask, Isabel Bella Sterling, can you explain the details in that photo? Kneeling naked? Is that what you meant by the graduation project you needed to be absent from our wedding day to complete? What legitimate school's graduation project requires the bride, in her wedding gown, along with her bridesmaids, to kneel naked and flaunt themselves in front of another man like that, displaying such unfulfilled expressions? There was a moment of silence on the other end, followed by an even sharper accusation. Marcus Hayes, how can your mind be so filthy? That's art. A commoner like you would never understand. I'm just curious, with all of you dressed like that, kneeling before him, did your artist Julian Vance not have any physiological reaction at all? He couldn't possibly be impotent, could he? Or perhaps you already took care of him while you were kneeling. Marcus Hayes, you jerk. You're so petty. You're twisted. She cursed, furious and exasperated. Filthy. Disgusting. You're not worthy of me. She slammed the phone down. I stared at the darkened screen, no longer having any desire to call her back. I only sent her one message. What? Are you disappointed he didn't react to you? Or have you already had a taste of him? Isabel Bella Sterling typed for a long time but didn't reply, but her 6 close friends, the art participants in the photo, began to bombard me one after another. Marcus Hayes, are you an idiot? What business is it of yours what I wear or what photos I take? How dare you send them to my boyfriend? If Julian Vance hadn't talked me down, I'd go over there and kill you right now. Bella must have been blind to ever have chosen you. You're not even fit to touch a single one of Julian Vance's fingers. They're the perfect match. Who do you think you are, to be worthy of Bella? You couldn't keep your fiancé yourself, so you resort to these despicable tactics to ruin someone else's artistic creation? Disgusting. Go back to your dump. What photos we take is none of your damn business. Even if we were completely naked taking pictures with Julian Vance, that's our freedom. We're willing. What the hell do you know about art? Trash like you deserves nothing but to watch us orgasm. Go apologize to Julian right now. Otherwise, we're not done with you. You'll never see Bella again in your life if you don't get on your knees and apologize to Julian Vance. There's no way we'll let Bella marry you. You're a nobody, not even fit to shine Julian's shoes. If you're so bored, just go die. You're just an eyesore. Bella with you has simply thrown herself away. Their narratives were astonishingly consistent. Isabel Bella Sterling was not wrong. Julian Vance was not wrong, and they were even less wrong. The only one who was wrong was me. I stared expressionlessly at the foul language, screenshotting all the chat logs and meticulously stitching them together into collated screenshots. Then, I opened a social media post to edit the text. Thank you to all friends and family who took the time to attend the wedding of Marcus Hayes and Miss Isabel Bella Sterling today. However, the wedding has now been cancelled. The reason is shown in the image below. Furthermore, I'd like to thank Miss Isabel Bella Sterling's 6 closest friends, who unanimously believe that I am not worthy of Miss Sterling, and certainly not even comparable to a single one of Mr. Julian Vance's fingers, in order not to hinder Miss Isabel Bella Sterling and Mr. Julian Vance's magnificent artistic future. I, Marcus Hayes, voluntarily withdraw, effective immediately. My engagement to Miss Isabel Bella Sterling is hereby dissolved. From this point forward, we go our separate ways, with no further connection. May we each find peace. And no well wishes are necessary. I also attached the screenshot of Julian Vance's artistic photo from his social media post. The moment I posted it, my phone began vibrating furiously, with a flurry of notification sounds opening the comment section. It was as expected. A complete mess. Holy crap. On the wedding day, the bride ran off to take photos like that with another man. Mr. Hayes has been completely cuckolded. Run! What the hell is this art? Bah! Isabel Bella Sterling's eyes were practically dripping with lust, and her bridesmaids are no good either. T.S. These girls, their figures are truly the absolute worst kind of sluts, so brazen. Can I get their contact info, bro? I'd like to smirk. JPG, naked and kneeling? $1 million wedding gown? 8 people? TS, so brazen. I don't understand the world of the rich, but I'm truly shocked. They're adding to their artistic collective faster than Apple releases new iPhones. Feel bad for Marcus for a second. Good riddance to a woman like that. Come over tonight, buddy. I'll celebrate your return to bachelorhood with you. Lily Davies, you better explain yourself. Didn't you say you were going with Bella to the studio to see an art exhibition? Did you become the exhibition yourself? Sarah Miller, you better give me a reasonable explanation. Just now you were crying and begging me to forgive you, saying you were just helping out a friend? Do you think I'm blind? Damn! So that pathetic, pitiful act just now was all fake? This bitch! The boyfriends of the 6 bridesmaids also appeared, one by one. It seemed they had just been fooled by their girlfriends. Now, seeing the screenshots from my social media post, they finally realized they had been played for fools. Immediately after, 2 new comments pushed the atmosphere to its peak. One was from Lily Davies' fiancé, a real estate mogul. Lily Davies, it's over. Don't you dare contact me again. The thought that you might have kissed me with the same mouth that licked Julian Vance makes me sick to my stomach. You, a rotten-hearted filthy whore, deserve a perverted bastard like Julian Vance. Stay together and rot. The other was from Sarah Miller's husband, the CEO of a publicly traded company. Sarah Miller, I'll have my lawyer send you the divorce papers. You'll leave with nothing. Furthermore, I've already applied for an investigation and evidence collection regarding your illicit financial transactions and intimate contact with Julian Vance. The evidence is conclusive. You trashy slut. You should just stay bound to a pathetic excuse for a man like Julian Vance. The comment section completely exploded. Explosive. They're tearing each other apart. A filthy whore deserves a perverted bastard? That analogy is spot on. It looks like these women have a shady relationship with Julian Vance. No wonder they were so engrossed in the photo shoot. Their expressions were practically reaching orgasm. Well done. These bitches deserve to be ruined and disgraced. Amidst the chaos, Isabel Bella Sterling never appeared, nor did she offer any response. It was as if this storm had nothing to do with her. Just then, a call came in. I frowned and answered. It was Eleanor Sterling, her voice tearful, anxious, and flustered. Marcus, honey, please delete that social media post quickly. Bella must have a reason. She must have been forced. She loves you so much. How could she possibly do anything to betray you? There must be a misunderstanding. And Eleanor, for so many years, everyone has seen how I've cared for Bella. If it hadn't crossed a fundamental line this time, I wouldn't have wanted to do this either. Marcus, don't act impulsively. Listen to your aunt. Your uncle and I have already invited your parents to our house. We thought both families could sit down and talk things through. Clear up the misunderstanding first. What? My parents are at their house? I knew better than anyone the situation the Sterlings were in. They had placed all their hopes on the marriage alliance between Isabel Bella Sterling and me. Now that the wedding was off, would they? I hung up, grabbed my car keys, and rushed out. I sped all the way to the Sterling estate, pushing open the door. I found only my parents sitting on the sofa in the living room, their expressions somewhat unnatural. Dad, Mom, are you okay? We're fine, my mom said, patting my hand. Bella's parents said they went out to buy a few things and would be right back, and told us to sit for a while. Just then, a pungent smell of something burning suddenly filled the air. Flames shot up from the curtains in the living room corner. The fire spread incredibly fast, and thick smoke instantly filled the entire space. I immediately pressed the smoke alarm button on the wall, but there was no response. Then I looked at the automatic sprinkler system on the ceiling. It was completely still. The entire system had failed. Let's go. I pulled my parents up, intending to rush towards the door. The thick smoke made it impossible to open our eyes, and breathing became difficult. Just as we were about to be engulfed by the smoke, with a loud bang, the mansion's front door was violently forced open. Isabel Bella Sterling rushed in. She lunged directly towards us, shielding my parents with her body, and cried out hoarsely, "Uncle Richard, Aunt Eleanor, Marcus Hayes, follow me." She was extremely familiar with the villa's layout, able to accurately navigate even through the thick smoke, pulling us as we stumbled out of the burning house. Outside, the sirens of fire trucks were already wailing. No sooner had we escaped danger than Isabel Bella Sterling collapsed to the ground, having inhaled too much smoke and sustained burns on her arm from falling debris. The arriving firefighters quickly brought the blaze under control and gave a thumbs up to the weakened Isabel Bella Sterling. "Young lady, well done. So brave. Young man, you're truly fortunate to have such a selflessly loving girlfriend." I looked at Isabel Bella Sterling, slumped on the ground, then at my parents, who were still coughing from inhaling smoke, and my gaze was complex. I took Isabel Bella Sterling and my parents to the hospital. I watched as the doctor treated the burns on Isabel Bella Sterling's arm. She winced in pain. Her face contorted strangely. I felt little emotion, let alone any inclination to sympathize with her. Perhaps the waiting on our wedding day, or the jarring photo, had already drained all my emotions. Isabel Bella Sterling looked at me, her eyes brimming with tears. A choked accusation caught in her throat. "Marcus Hayes, you weren't like this before. You used to cherish me most. Even the smallest scratch would make you anxious for ages. Now I've suffered such serious injuries saving you all, and you won't even look at me." She sobbed, her shoulders trembling slightly, trying to awaken the person I used to be in her memory. I calmly met her gaze. The Isabel Bella Sterling I cherished was the one who cared for me, not the Isabel Bella Sterling who abandoned me on our wedding day to take naked art photos with another man, and certainly not the Isabel Bella Sterling who made me wait in the ballroom all day, rejected my 999 calls, and then had the audacity to blame me. My voice was flat, as if I were stating a fact unrelated to myself. "Marcus Hayes, you petty and vindictive." Isabel Bella Sterling dropped the act and abruptly raised her voice. "It was me who risked everything to save your family. Me! It's bad enough you're not grateful, but you're still clinging to those trivial matters. Do you have any idea how much I've given up for you? Someone as outstanding as Julian Vance. I could have been with him." Her mother immediately chimed in from the side. "Exactly, Marcus. Bella only got hurt because she was saving you all. How can you talk like that? It's so hurtful. Since she was a child, so many people pursued Bella, but she never took to anyone but you. How can you treat her like this?" Richard Sterling frowned deeply and quietly interjected, "That's enough." I ignored her mother's emotional manipulation, my gaze still fixed on Isabel Bella Sterling's face. First, the fire wasn't large. The smoke was choking, but we could have found the door ourselves. Your rushing in was, at most, more like a bonus, not a life-saving act. Secondly, trivial matters. In your eyes, what truly counts as a major issue? Julian Vance asks you to spend his birthday with him, and you cancel our long-planned graduation trip. Is that not a trivial matter? Julian Vance is upset, so you sneak off in the middle of the night to comfort him while I'm hospitalized with acute appendicitis, leaving me alone in the ward. Is that not a trivial matter? Julian Vance needs inspiration, so you wear my custom-made wedding gown, bring your bridesmaids, and kneel naked in front of him for a photo shoot. Is that not a trivial matter? Julian Vance tells you to disappear on our wedding day, making me wait in the ballroom all day, mocked by all the guests. Is that not a trivial matter? With each question I asked, Isabel Bella Sterling's face grew a shade paler. Isabel Bella Sterling, search your heart, all these years, for Julian Vance's sake, you've abandoned me and hurt me again and again. Are these all trivial matters? As for these art photos, let's try a role reversal. If today were me, bringing my childhood sweetheart who I grew up with and her friends, taking those kinds of photos on my wedding day, what would you think? Isabel Bella Sterling's eyes flickered, her lips moved, but she couldn't utter a word in rebuttal, only manage a forced defense. That's different. Our interaction with Julian Vance was pure artistic exchange. Your mind is filthy, your heart is twisted. You see, everything is dirty. Our wedding was just postponed. It's not like it's canceled. What's the big deal? But if Julian Vance can't submit his graduation project, his advisor will scold him. Do you know how important that is to him? You don't understand art at all. You don't understand Julian Vance's talent. All you know is how to make money. Besides being rich, you're nothing. The more she spoke, the more agitated she became, as if she were the one who had suffered an immense grievance. I'm not wrong. None of us are wrong. You're the one who's wrong. You're too petty. Seeing her so stubbornly deluded, I suddenly found it somewhat amusing. I nodded, humoring her. You're right, postponing the wedding, indeed, isn't a problem. Isabel Bella Sterling seemed not to have expected me to concede so easily. The anger on her face instantly froze, replaced by a flicker of bewilderment and relief in her eyes. She had just breathed a sigh of relief, thinking the storm had passed. I looked at her and, word by word, clearly and calmly articulated my next words. Therefore, our engagement is hereby dissolved. After all, we haven't even registered our marriage yet. Isabel Bella Sterling's eyes finally held not indignation, but genuine terror. She suddenly grabbed my arm. Dissolve the engagement? Marcus Hayes, are you insane? Just because of a few photos? Just because of a small misunderstanding? All these years of our relationship? You're just going to throw it away just like that? You're overreacting. You're too sensitive. I told you that was art. Nothing happened between us. You can't destroy everything we have over such a trivial matter. She was still trying to convince me, or perhaps herself. In her eyes, betrayal and deception truly seemed to be just trivial matters. I couldn't be bothered to argue with her anymore. This cognitive dissonance was beyond repair. I withdrew my arm and looked at Richard Sterling, who stood nearby, his face ashen. Isabel Bella Sterling still tried to speak, but Richard Sterling suddenly raised his hand and delivered a resounding slap squarely across her face. Smack! Isabel Bella Sterling was stunned by the blow, clutching her face, staring at her father in disbelief. Eleanor Sterling gasped, wanting to step forward, but was stopped by a single look from Richard Sterling. You disgraceful wretch! Richard Sterling pointed at Isabel Bella Sterling. Trembling with rage, you've done something so shameless, and you still have the audacity to accuse others of overreacting. He turned to me, forcing a somewhat mollifying expression onto his face. Marcus, please don't be angry. Your uncle has failed in raising his daughter, rest assured. I will discipline her properly. He'll make sure she knows what she should and shouldn't do. Look, your relationship has spanned so many years. It's not easy. How can you just break it off like that? Give her another chance, please. His tone was earnest, but I could clearly see the deep-seated fear of losing resources in his eyes. The Sterlings were already an empty shell, maintaining their facade of prosperity solely through the Hayes family's financial infusions. I scoffed inwardly. This was the perfect moment to take the hint and seize the opportunity. Uncle Richard, it's not impossible for me to reconsider. I paused, my gaze sweeping over Isabel Bella Sterling, who guiltily lowered her head. This fire today, it started far too suspiciously. The smoke alarm failed, and the automatic sprinkler system didn't react either. I suspect it was arson. If the Sterlings are truly sincere, they should report it to the police and initiate an investigation. Find out who tried to harm our family. No sooner had I spoken than Isabel Bella Sterling abruptly lifted her head, her eyes wide with panic. No, we can't call the police. She spoke urgently, her voice completely off-key. Uncle Richard and Aunt Eleanor aren't hurt, are they? Why make a big fuss? Investigating everything will be so troublesome. Besides, it might just be an old system. There's no way it was arson. She avoided my gaze, looking frantically at her father, her tone almost pleading. Dad, let's just drop it. It's better to avoid unnecessary trouble. I looked at her acting suspicious with a guilty conscience, and the last bit of warmth in my heart vanished completely. I turned to Richard Sterling. spread my hands, and spoke in a flat, emotionless tone. Uncle Richard, you see, this is your daughter's attitude. It seems our family's TIs end here. Having said that, I turned and walked out of the hospital room. Behind me, Richard Sterling's enraged shouts and Isabel Bella Sterling's cries from being hit echoed once more, along with Eleanor Sterling's futile attempts to intervene. I didn't stop walking. Just as I reached the hospital room door, I ran into a man carrying a large bouquet of vibrant red roses, Julian Vance. When he saw me, his eyes were full of undisguised provocation. Well, isn't it Marcus Hayes? What's up? Wedding cancelled. So you came to the hospital to beg Bella to take you back? He deliberately extended the garish bouquet forward. Too bad, Bella probably doesn't have time for you right now. After all, she and Lily Davies, they're all mine. He stepped closer, lowered his voice, and contemptuously spat out a few words at a volume only we two could hear. Obedient little dogs, very well behaved. Tell them to kneel, and they kneel. Tell them to strip, and they strip. Tell them to lick, and they lick. Do you know? Your $1 million wedding gown, Bella wore it and did countless vile things in front of me, things you can't even imagine. I couldn't be bothered to waste words on him. I just wanted to leave immediately and check on my parents. I turned sideways, intending to walk around him, but he deliberately extended his arm, blocking my path. Don't be in such a hurry to leave. Marcus Hayes, shall we discuss art in the nude? Do you know, Bella and the others, they're willing to do anything for me, accept anything, while a rich second-generation heir like you, so poor all you have is money, deserves nothing but to watch them orgasm at my feet. I frowned deeply and unceremoniously pushed away his blocking hand. The force wasn't great, but Julian Vance let out an exaggerated cry of pain. Ah, Marcus Hayes, what are you doing? You're assaulting me. From the hospital room, Isabel Bella Sterling's anxious voice immediately rang out. Julian Vance? Julian Vance, what's wrong? She seemed to want to rush out, but her father held her down tightly, and all I could hear were her struggling cries. Dad, let go of me. Julian Vance needs me. Just then, a hurried clicking of high heels echoed from the end of the corridor. Isabel Bella Sterling's 6 close friends had actually all come together. They saw Julian Vance clutching his wrist, looking pained, and immediately rushed over like dogs greeting their master. Julian, are you okay? Is it serious? Lily Davies was the first to rush to Julian Vance's side, her expression of worry probably something even her boyfriend had never witnessed. Oh my God, your hand is red. Does it hurt? Let me rub it for you. Another friend, Paige Adams, immediately grabbed Julian Vance's hand and gently massaged it. Marcus Hayes, you bastard! How dare you lay a hand on Julian Vance? Who do you think you are? You're not even worthy of touching Julian Vance. You good for nothing. All you know is how to solve problems with violence. They clustered around Julian Vance, chattering away, showering him with concern. At the same time, they hurled insults at me, as if I had committed some heinous crime. Lily Davies even pointed directly at my nose and unleashed a torrent of abuse. You good for nothing. You couldn't keep your own fiancé, so you just take your anger out on others. Bella must have been blind. How can you compare to Julian? You're not even fit to touch one of his toes. I looked at their disgraceful behavior and felt nothing but profound irony. It seems you care more about Julian Vance than you do about your own boyfriends. These 6 women were clearly blinded by rage. Hearing my sarcasm, they became even more verbally unrestrained. Of course, Julian Vance is so wonderful. Unlike some good-for-nothings who only snitch behind my back. Julian Vance is talented, charming, and understands women's hearts. Who do you think you are? Exactly. We just like Julian Vance. We're willing to be good to him. He deserves the love of all women. Our boyfriends, what are they? Can they even compare to Julian Vance? They're not even fit to shine Julian Vance's shoes. That's right. They're not even fit to be Julian Vance's dog. The next second, I slowly raised my voice, ensuring it could be clearly heard in a certain direction. Bros, did you hear that? In your girlfriends' hearts, you guys are not even fit to be Julian Vance's dogs. No sooner had I spoken than the 6 men, who had been patiently hiding in various nearby corners, emerged like furies. They were the wealthy benefactors Lily Davies and the others had painstakingly latched onto, and also the good-for-nothings who, in their words, weren't even fit to be Julian Vance's dogs. The arrogance on the bridesmaids' faces instantly froze, turning into terror. But before they could react, the 6 men lunged directly at Julian Vance, who was surrounded by them. Julian Vance, you son of a bitch. You dare mess with my woman? Artist? I'll show you what art is. And you want to kneel naked and lick? I'll make you call me daddy on your knees today. Fists, slaps, and flying kicks rained down mercilessly on Julian Vance. There was no method, only raw anger and violence. Julian Vance was caught off guard and screamed like a pig being slaughtered. He tried to protect his proud face, and also his vital male parts. His two hands frantically blocked and covered his body, his posture both pathetic and comical. The normally debonair artist was now mauled on the ground like a rag doll. Bystanders recoiled from the sudden violence, too afraid to step forward. But there are always people who love a good show, and someone quietly started a live stream on their phone. Holy crap. Live fight? Who is that guy? So annoying he deserves a beating. Wait, isn't that the male lead from the art photo? The one named Julian Vance? And those women next to him, aren't they the bridesmaids who were kneeling in the picture? Ha 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 ha. Dying of laughter. Acting like a god in the art photo, but getting beaten like a dog in reality. Serves them right. Let them act like sluts. Let that guy show off. They deserve it. Who's that handsome guy next to them? The one who's just standing there, not moving. Oh, it's the groom, Marcus Hayes. The 6 stunned bridesmaids finally came to their senses, seeing their beloved Julian Vance screaming in pain from the beating. They no longer cared what foolish things they had just said, and rushed forward, screaming, "Stop! What are you doing? Don't hit Julian Vance! Let him go!" They desperately tried to pull their boyfriends or ex-boyfriends off. Attempting to rescue Julian Vance from the barrage of punches and kicks, in the chaos, the 6 of them instinctively surrounded Julian Vance, forming a protective circle. Their positioning eerily mirrored their kneeling, fawning posture from the art photo of them worshipping Julian Vance. The only difference was that in the photo, their eyes were glazed over with lust, but now, each of them was disheveled and in utter disarray. Paige Adams was the most ferocious in the struggle. She desperately clung to her boyfriend's arm, preventing him from continuing to assault Julian Vance. In her desperation, she even yanked off her boyfriend's meticulously styled wig, revealing his bald scalp underneath. The man cried out in pain and instinctively shook his head. But Paige Adams's sharp acrylic nails directly scratched his cheek. The other bridesmaids' situations weren't much better. Scratching, biting, cursing, the scene completely spiraled out of control. The men, especially Paige Adams's boyfriend, whose wig had been yanked off and whose face had been scratched, felt the burning pain on his face and the astonished stares of those around him, and were absolutely enraged. He had pampered this woman like honey and elevated her to her current status, only for her to repay him like this? Paige Adams and the other bridesmaids, seeing the furious expressions of the wealthy men they had finally managed to snag, and then looking at the barely conscious Julian Vance on the ground, finally realized they had done something irreversible. Their movements froze, and they stood rooted to the spot. Paige Adams. Her boyfriend pointed at her. "You better watch your back. I'll make sure your family's struggling company disappears tomorrow. And that bastard Julian Vance, I'll make his life a living hell." The other men also chimed in, their eyes cold as they looked at their girlfriends. "Exactly. And all of you, get the hell out of here. I want every penny I invested in your family's businesses back. Just wait to go bankrupt, bitch." The threatening words brought them back to reality a little, but before they could even process this impending disaster, they heard them threaten to make Julian Vance's life a living hell. They didn't even stop to consider what the previous statement meant for their families, and once again, they rushed at their boyfriends like maniacs. "You dare touch Julian Vance? If anything happens to him, I'll fight you to the death. Bastard! Stay away from Julian!" They cursed uncontrollably, completely tearing apart the last shred of decency and utterly sealing their own fates. The scene once again descended into an extremely chaotic brawl. Just then, several police officers rushed in, attempting to separate the brawling crowd. "Everyone stop. Police, don't move." However, the bridesmaids, whose eyes were now red with rage, completely ignored the warnings. Disoriented, they even turned on the officers trying to pull them apart, clawing and scratching. Seeing this, the officers on the periphery quickly got a megaphone. "Listen up, everyone inside. Stop fighting immediately. Otherwise, we will be forced to take coercive measures." The high decibel warning finally brought the chaotic scene to a halt. Lily Davies likely thought help had arrived. She immediately pointed at me, then at the 6 men who had just stopped fighting. "Officers, quickly arrest them. They're causing a public disturbance and assault and battery. Look at what they've done to Julian Vance." However, the lead officer ignored her accusations. "Handcuff these women and the man on the ground. All of them." Lily Davies' eyes widened in disbelief. "Why are you handcuffing us? They're the ones who were hitting people." "Paige Adams, you are suspected of arson and attempted murder, and you need to come back with us for questioning, you others." The officer swept his gaze over the 5 other bridesmaids and Julian Vance, obstructing justice and assaulting an officer. "You're all coming back with us. Isabel Bella Sterling was finally released from the hospital room by her father. Her hair was disheveled, and her face was streaked with tears and dust. She stared blankly as Julian Vance and the 6 bridesmaids were handcuffed and led away by the police. I looked at her wretched appearance at that moment, but my mind uncontrollably flashed back to the first time I saw her. She was completely barely recognizable from how she was then. My parents lived abroad for many years, and a few bullies at school often cornered me in alleys, extorting large sums for protection money. Countless punches rained down on me, and I could only clench my teeth and endure. It was Isabel Bella Sterling, along with her group of sis, who stood in front of me. She warned those guys that from then on, I was under her protection. If anyone dared to touch her people again, they would face the consequences. From that day on, no one dared to lay a finger on me. It was from that moment that the girl in the white dress, with bright yet slightly unruly eyes, moved into my heart. Later, I transferred to a school abroad and could only deeply bury that nascent affection in my heart. I thought I might never see her again in this lifetime. But fate played a cruel joke, and I met her again on the streets of a foreign land. At that time, she was heartbroken and worn out because Julian Vance had chosen the daughter of a wealthier old money family. She didn't even remember who I was. Yet I foolishly believed it was a gift from heaven, a chance to get close to her again. I was almost insane with the desire to give her all the best things in the world. She readily accepted all my goodwill and my pursuit. We completed our studies together and returned to our home country. I, failing business. Along with the businesses of her 6 bridesmaids' families, they were all brought back from the brink and thriving because of my assistance during that period. We indeed had a wonderfully happy time together. I thought I had finally found my perfect ending, until Julian Vance returned disgraced after being abandoned by the wealthy heiress and reappeared in her life. Everything changed. She spent less and less time with me, and the smiles on her face became increasingly perfunctory. Her phone being unreachable became the norm. When asked, it was always busy or with my friends. Her bridesmaid stories were also astonishingly consistent, flawless. All beautiful illusions of love and trust were shattered to pieces the moment she was absent on their wedding day by that unbearable photo. Inside the police precinct's interrogation room, Julian Vance sat across from me, a police officer beside him. Gone was his usual artistic demeanor, replaced by panic and a desperate, grim determination to clear his name. It wasn't me. It really wasn't me. The arson was Lily Davies' doing. Isabel Bella Sterling knew about it too. They planned it together. They wanted to stage a manipulative act of heroism to make your family eternally grateful. He spoke at a frantic pace, eager to shed all responsibility. In another interrogation room, when the police relayed Julian Vance's testimony to Lily Davies, she froze, then completely broke down. "Julian Vance, you bastard! May you rot in hell!" She lunged at the table, but the police held her down firmly. "It was you. You're the one who instigated me." Lily Davies pulled out her phone and slammed it onto the table. "Recordings. I have recordings." After a jarring static sound, Julian Vance's voice was clearly audible. "Lily Davies, don't be scared. It's just a small spark. It won't kill anyone. Think about it. As long as Bella becomes the Hayes family's savior, won't Marcus Hayes have a change of heart? Then, for your family's business, won't Bella put in a good word for you with Marcus Hayes? Understand? This is called a small sacrifice for a huge payoff. Julian Vance was the instigator, Lily Davies was the executor, and Isabel Bella Sterling was the knowing party and a silent accomplice. As for the other 5 friends, though they didn't directly participate in the arson, their shoving and scratching of the police in the hospital corridor were enough for them to be temporarily detained for assaulting an officer and obstructing justice. I walked out of the police precinct and made a few calls: withdraw all resource allocation from Stratton Holdings, terminate all collaborations with Evergreen Ventures, initiate a financial audit of Phoenix Group, and uncover every single bad debt. All the funds and resources I had injected into their 6 families because of Isabel Bella Sterling, I would now reclaim, every last cent. With interest, Lily Davies' family, due to her involvement as an arson mastermind, was already in disarray. The other 5 families quickly fell into chaos as well. The family heads who had originally hoped to climb the social ladder by relying on their daughters to connect with the Hayes family were utterly enraged upon learning everything, especially that their daughters had assaulted and verbally abused a wealthy benefactor and even assaulted an officer at the hospital for Julian Vance. Before long, the 5 friends who had just been released from custody were thrown onto my doorstep by several fierce-looking men. Like dead dogs, they were disheveled, with visible injuries on their faces and bodies. Before they could compose themselves, they were kicked to the ground by the men behind them, forced to kneel towards the mansion's front door. "Mr. Hayes, we were wrong. We were blind. We were completely misled. Please, in your great generosity, spare our families. We were foolish before, deceived by that bastard Julian Vance. They cried out, repeatedly slamming their foreheads against the ground. Mr. Hayes, please, for all the years of friendship between Bella and me, I stood before the floor-to-ceiling window on the second floor. Friendship? When you were fawning over Julian Vance, saying I couldn't even hold a candle to him, why didn't you consider friendship then? When you were gathered around Julian Vance at the hospital, calling me useless and saying I wasn't even fit to be a dog, why didn't you mention friendship? The ones you have friendship with are Isabel Bella Sterling and Julian Vance, not me. Instead of wasting your energy kneeling and kowtowing here, you'd be better off saving your breath and begging your artist, Julian Vance. See if he can show some mercy, and in consideration of your desperate groveling, save your failing families. With that, I drew the curtains, the doorbell rang again. This time, it was Isabel Bella Sterling. Her arm was still bandaged, her face pale, and her eyes swollen and red. Clearly having just been released from custody, she looked at me, her eyes complex, and opened her mouth, but in the end, she reverted to her usual demeanor. Marcus Hayes, haven't you caused enough trouble? Do you really have to be so ruthless? Lily Davies and the others already know they were wrong. Why do you still have to make things difficult for them? She still thought I was just sulking, playing hard to get. Stop it, Marcus Hayes. Her tone was condescending. As long as you stop targeting them. I can let bygones be bygones regarding the past. From now on, I'll cut ties with Julian Vance. We can still be like before. She paused, clearly believing her concession was significant enough, then added a threatening remark. If you rein it in a bit, it'll be better for all of us. Otherwise, there'll truly be no future for us then. Our family and Lily Davies' families won't cooperate with you anymore. Hearing that last sentence, I finally couldn't help but let out a scoff. Cooperate? What do they have to offer for cooperation? Isabel Bella Sterling, haven't you figured out the situation yet? Without the Hayes family, without my resources, what are your Sterlings and your friends' families worth? Even the small profits that slip through my fingers would be enough to sustain your families for years now. What leverage do you have to negotiate with me? With your cheap let bygones be bygones? Or with your pure artistic exchanges with Julian Vance? Isabel Bella Sterling's face turned ashen. She probably never imagined that I, who had always indulged her every whim, would utter such heartless words. Marcus Hayes, you. She seemed to want to curse me, but couldn't find the right words. Finally, she trembled with rage and spun around, storming off. You'll regret this. She threw that remark over her shoulder and stumbled towards the door. However, she didn't even make it out of the mansion's front door. Richard Sterling blocked the entrance, his face ashen, and grabbed a handful of her hair. Slap! A resounding slap landed hard on her face. Isabel Bella Sterling staggered from the blow and fell to the ground. Bystanders nearby turned their heads and pointed. Richard Sterling, however, ignored them, punching and kicking his daughter as she lay on the ground. I told you to go beg Mr. Hayes for forgiveness. Where the hell are you running off to? You've completely shamed me. I'll beat you to death, you shameless wretch. He continued to hit and curse her, his blows severe, completely disregarding Isabel Bella Sterling's pleas and cries for mercy. Finally, he dragged the bruised and battered Isabel Bella Sterling back to my mansion's front door like a dead dog, then violently pushed her to the ground. Get on your knees. Richard Sterling pointed at the mansion's front door and roared at Isabel Bella Sterling, Beg! Beg until Mr. Hayes forgives you. Otherwise, you can die out here. Never think of stepping foot inside the Sterling's door again. Isabel Bella Sterling lay prostrate on the ground, trembling uncontrollably, her face a pathetic mess of tears, blood, and dirt. She lifted her head, staring despairingly at the closed mansion's front door, then began to kowtow repeatedly. Marcus Hayes, I'm sorry, please, forgive me. I truly know I was wrong. Her cries turned hoarse, her forehead quickly broke open, and blood streamed down her face. I watched all of this, without the slightest softening of my heart or any hint of emotion. She kowtowed for a long time, until her cries grew weaker and her movements more sluggish. Finally, due to excessive blood loss and inflammation and infection in her arm wound, her head lolled to the side, and she passed out. The people the Sterlings had stationed in the shadows to observe quickly and clumsily dragged the unconscious Isabel Bella Sterling away. At the mansion's front door, only a glaring pool of blood remained. Half a month later, under the combined efforts of myself and 6 other men, we crushed them. Paige Adams, who, at the hospital, had ripped off her boyfriend's wig and scratched his face to defend Julian Vance, her family's already failing business, was the first to declare bankruptcy. I didn't even bother to inquire about the details, only vaguely hearing that to settle their debts, Paige Adams was packaged up by her family and sold off to a remote, lawless corner of the world. The once arrogant heiress was ultimately reduced to a mere tool for debt repayment. What I didn't expect was that Lily Davies and Julian Vance still had a trick up their sleeve. They somehow had some leverage over Isabel Bella Sterling, making her drain her last savings to get them both released from custody. the remaining friends' families. After losing my resource allocation and then being relentlessly pursued and cornered by their ex-boyfriends' families, couldn't even last a month, announcements of bankruptcy and liquidation followed one after another. Isabel Bella Sterling's own family was already a flickering candle in the wind, just one step away from complete collapse. The friends who once surrounded her now wandered like stray dogs. Every day, they were hounded by debt collectors' calls and visits, leaving them nowhere to turn. Their families, too, prepared to emulate Paige Adams's family, planning to sell them off to settle debts. In despair, these women decided to flee the country illegally, escaping a place where they no longer had a foothold. But before their escape, they held a final dinner. They invited Julian Vance, who they had once idolized, and Isabel Bella Sterling, who had always been their closest friend. That meal truly became their grim last supper. They added a large dose of muscle relaxant to their drinks. Isabel Bella Sterling and Julian Vance quickly lost their ability to move, slumping in their chairs. Only their eyes could still dart around in terror, but their mouths couldn't utter a sound. One by one, while Isabel Bella Sterling and Julian Vance were fully conscious, they meticulously removed every saleable organ from their bodies. The fresh organs were quickly packaged and sold, and the money they received became their capital for escape. The remaining mutilated bodies were repeatedly boiled in a pressure cooker until they became barely recognizable flesh and bone fragments. They divided the money equally and began their escape, had it not been for the intense stench emanating from the house a few days later, which prompted neighbors to call the police. Perhaps no one would have ever found them. It was only through DNA testing of the trace tissue remains at the scene that the police finally identified the identities of the flesh: Isabel Bella Sterling, Julian Vance. The women who committed the crime were apprehended by border police during their attempt to flee the country illegally. Caught red-handed, awaiting them was the harshest judgment of the law, the death penalty. Isabel Bella Sterling was the Sterlings' only child. When Isabel Bella Sterling's parents learned of their daughter's horrific fate, they couldn't endure the successive blows and completely lost their minds. A few years later, I once again frequently appeared in the public eye. By then, I had already entered the ranks of the world's wealthiest individuals. In several cutting-edge industries, I led my companies to become the dominant force, unmatched by anyone. Under the spotlight, beside me stood an equally dazzling woman. Whether in family background, capability, or appearance, she was more than my match. Most importantly, in this woman's eyes, her eyes were solely on me.